said, hello again. I am Stellan Harris, and this is, as always, Cooking by Books. We are here to deliver some spectacular, spooky treats this session, and we hope to part some lovely recipes for you folks this session. Pull up my presentation. We can give you some good information. So, as I said, this is the October Cooking by the Books, and October means a great many things to a lot of people. What's October mean to you, Matt?
October means that it is 1 month closer to my birthday in December.
There we go. Matt got to do that. For December, cook Matt something. So, as always, Cooking by the Books is brought to you by DPRL Culinary Programs. We're going to teach you some wonderful recipes for all kinds of occasions. This one, we're going to focus on a couple of sweet recipes. We haven't done a solely sweet recipe video in a while. I've been kind of trying to mix it up a bit. And actually, next one is just going to be savory. So we're really going to the extremes these next 2 months. But you'll enjoy it. We're going to focus on making one recipe that I make pretty regularly, and I think is great for ironically the day after Halloween. And then 2 recipes that are great in the month of, but you could do this first recipe in the month, but there's a particular facet of it that makes it great for that November 1st kind of day. But anyway, we'll keep going. So, as I mentioned, October is a wonderful month. It means a great many things to a great many people. It means the weather's getting cooler. It means that the leaves are changing colors depending on where you live. The days are getting longer as winter slowly approaches. But for me and for many folks, it means that it's the spooky season. Halloween is the end of the month, and if you're like me, Halloween started, honestly, probably since September 30th, but that's just how it is. But it is now truly, deeply Halloween season. All the decorations are coming out. I'm waiting to hear the odd, sort of like lo-fi Halloween songs through the grocery store radio. All those things that are the hallmarks of the season. But there are things you can cook from, and these recipes are great for that. Because, first of all, they're simple. I like giving you guys simple recipes, both because who's got the time for a big complicated thing? You've got trick-or-treating to do, you've got costumes to make, you've got 12-foot Home Depot skeletons to assemble. We're all very busy. So I want these recipes to be very simple and straightforward, which you can knock out in an afternoon, not even a couple of hours at best. Maybe even 2 hours, depending on how quick you are. These last 2, we'll see. We might have to time ourselves. But it's going to be simple and accessible to folks who maybe don't have a lot of experience in the kitchen. We are here for you folks as well. We also want to bring something to a Halloween kind of party. And if you don't want to spend a bunch of money doing that, but you want to bring something nice to a gathering, these are great for that. As a lot of these are made with pretty simple ingredients. You don't have to buy a couple things, but a lot of this stuff is pretty pantry kind of staple. There's a lot of butter in this, sugar, salt, vanilla, all that good stuff. And lastly, it's Halloween, and I don't know about you, but don't you gotta treat yourself. It isn't the season to do it. Little kids are getting candy. You should get something nice for yourself too. Even if you're only a little kid on the inside, like I am. So let's start with candy bar brownies. Now, candy bar brownies are something that I've made a while. For a good while now. And they came about was because I discovered a brownie recipe I really liked, but I didn't want to buy chocolate chips because I didn't want to go out. But, and I'm not alone in this. I am one of the folks who, the day after all the candy holidays, I go to the store, I buy as much of the discounted candy as I can afford because it's the best time to get Reese's eggs, Reese's pumpkins, the various molten chocolates, all the tiny little fun-sized candy bars for basically dirt cheap. I'm one of those folks, and because I had done that at the time, I decided, well, what if I just put all these in the brownie? And lo and behold, it was delicious because it was brownie and candy bar, and I don't know why that's surprising to me, but it was at the time. So this recipe comes out of that, and it is basically a dense, rich, fudgy brownie that is filled with the delicious candy bar of your choice. We're doing a mix today. Ours is a mix of Twix, Snickers, and the Musketeers. And that's just because that's the bag that we bought. This could be any number of coverage. You could do Kit Kats in here. You could do Butterfingers. You could do Reese's in here. Because any candy bar you fancy, you can probably fit in here, as long as you can put it into a brownie, either whole or chopped up or one size. Now, the other aspect of the recipe is that it is like non-traditional because it involves melting chocolate, like baking chocolate for your batter, which in a lot of recipes only use cocoa powder. I've found that extra step really the texture and the flavor of the brownies. So that's just something to do. Don't worry, we're not tempering chocolate. We did that in February, but we're not gonna bring it back there yet. Maybe next year, we'll see. But it's just putting it in microwave, melting it with some butter. That's it. Don't freak out. And as I said, put your favorite candy bars in this. Matt, what's your favorite candy bar?
Oh, man. It varies the older I get.
Yeah.
It used to be Butterfinger. Actually, before that, it was Three Musketeers.
Ooh.
For a while, it was Almond Joy.
Oh,
But I'm always partial to a good Heath bar.
Mhm.
I love toffee.
yeah. I like heat. It's stuck in my teeth.
Yeah. It's dangerous.
I feel like putting heat bars possibly better stuff.
Yeah.
You're gonna get a little stuck in the teeth.
Yeah.
But like I said, Matt put heat bars in this. He'd be great. It's like
Yeah.
you can come up with bring it up a bit more,
Yeah.
but it'll go great in this. So as I said, customize this to your whim. So the ingredients are here on the screen. This ingredient is for a full 9x13 kind of casserole pan sized batch of brownies. We're going to be doing a smaller because our oven is smaller. We're operating out of our lovely portable toaster oven, and we're going to be doing an 8x8 pan, which is roughly about half of this ingredient list. But we have our butter, we have a bar of baking chocolate, which I'll briefly show you what this looks like, because there's some folks who don't bake with baking bars too often. So this is what it looks like here. It's just a bar of chocolate. I'll approach the camera. I realize I'm very far away. So this is what this looks like. This is just a Great Value brand. It is just a bar of chocolate. Oh, it's got the big squares. Very simple. You could probably use a fancy chocolate. I don't know if it would give you much dividends. You don't want something super milky sweet in this because it's going to have other sweet things in it. You want that contrast between the semi-sweet, kind of slightly bitter chocolate and the sweeter candy bar fillings. Then let's get back to the ingredients list. So we have our chocolate bar, we have a bunch of sugar, we have a couple eggs, we have some vanilla extract. Another big deviation is that we don't use a lot of flour in this. We use equal parts cocoa powder. I can't talk. Cocoa powder and all parts flour. And another thing you might notice is there's no leavening in this. These brownies won't really rise, and that is intentional. I want a dense, rich, fudgy brownie, and baking powder will only impede that. I have deep respect for all of our cakey brownie enthusiasts. You are heard. This recipe is looking for you. Well, I'll come back for you. Don't worry. I know you're out there. We've not forgot you. Cooking by the books is for everyone. Come back with a cakey brownie recipe in the future. I am personally a fudgy brownie person, so this is what we're starting with. Don't freak out. We'll get you. But those are all ingredients, and of course, the cup and a half candy bars of your choice. And the instructions are pretty simple. To preheat your oven, you want to line your pan with some parchment paper. Now, this is a step I'll encourage you not to skip because it makes getting them out of the pan a lot easier. Because after you cook them, you just lift the paper out, and there's your brownies. It's easier to cut, you get out of there. Very, very handy. You have to do it? No. Could you just grease the pan? Sure. I would recommend the parchment paper. It's not required, but it's heavily recommended. But after you've turned the oven and do that, you're to melt your butter and you had your baking chocolate in a bowl. And I did the microwave for like 30-second increments. That's the easiest way I found to do it. Could you go on the stove? Sure. There's not really a incentive to. You're gonna just stir it in a pot. And as it was that, just get a nice microwave safe bowl and melt it that way. You want to do it in 30-second bursts and mix it between, because really all you're aiming for is to just come together and everything get melted. You're trying to get that emulsion going between the butter and the chocolate. You don't need it piping hot. You want to just warm up where everything melts. And even if stuff might look melted on the surface, you can give it a stir. Oh, there's a chunk of almost melted chocolate in there. Sometimes you can get that with some vigorous stirring as it will melt with residual heat. Otherwise, you don't need to give it a little more time. But after that, you're going to whisk in your sugar and then your eggs and your vanilla and add the cocoa powder, flour, salt, and remaining chocolate, because you want to take the other half of that chocolate up. You put the rest of that in there, mix together. It's going to be a thick batter. I promise you. You're gonna make this. They still told me it's gonna be thick, but it's almost a paste. I can't. Don't worry. Stay calm. You can do this. You'll want to go slow. You want to get it spread out as far as you can. It might fight you a little bit, but I have faith in you. You can do this. Don't freak out if it's a little bit uneven. If there's a little bit of bumps in it, you'll be fine. I promise. But after that, you're going to bake that for about 30 minutes. But you want to start testing it around 28, 30 minutes with a cake tester. If it comes out and there's still batter in it, it's not done. If it comes out and there's like some moist crumbs, that's when you stop. You don't want to overbake these. These are great, slightly underbaked, but you don't want to bake them dry as a bone. That'll defeat the point of all the work we did, incorporating that moisture and that richness. Then take them out, and you generally want to cool them before slicing. I would recommend cooling them half an hour to an hour. If you can't wait, I understand, but they're much better after cooled a bit. If you're in a hurry, you could refridge them slightly, but then you're running into like you pop them in your fridge. That's some food safety issues, but you got to make your own choice. So I won't recommend that. If it's a life or death situation, you need these to cool down fast. That's an option. But all that being said, you're going to go ahead and get started. So, as I mentioned before, I have gone ahead, I have melted our brownie and our butter and our chocolate together. I'm going to show you what this looks like because this is something I struggled with at first. So you want this to it looks like melted chocolate. That's all it is. This is just butter and chocolate. It should be pretty thin right now, and there's no solid chunks in there. It's all liquid. And this is what we're going to add our sugar. Now, sugar is going to thicken that up slightly. It's going to take some beating, but I'm just adding in our sugar. And I have our other dry ingredients in this guy here, which I'll add are wet to. But again, I'm just stirring this together. You could use a mixer for this. I decided not to. It is really personal preference. But this is when it's going to thicken up. All that sugar is going to take in all that liquid. It's going to start getting really thick. It'll get kind of grainy because of all that sugar. Don't worry, the graininess will come out. That going with eggs. This is one, if I'm doing half measurements, this is 1 egg. I hear you asking me, Stellan, the recipe is 3 eggs. How do you do half of 3 eggs? You can't have half an egg. Well, there are 2 options. One, you can mix 3 eggs, weigh it out, and do half by weight. That's one way to do it. Or, what I'm going to do, I'm going to do 1 egg and 1 egg yolk. So I'll still get some of that richness, some of that liquid, but it won't be all that extra water that I might get from the eggs. Still get that wonderful emulsifying power of suck an egg. You're see that I did the classic crack an egg, make it go back and forth in shells trick to get the yolk out, not the white. We'll talk more about that in the future, I'm sure. But good skill to have. So I'm just going to mix this together. This is going to bring back some of that liquid to our brownie batter. It's going to help us dissolve some of those sugar crystals that aren't quite liquid and start to smooth out. This is when we're getting a bit more smooth, and it's going to get even more smooth when we add in our vanilla. That's right, vanilla in chocolate brownies. Vanilla makes many things better. It's like salt. Another thing that I've added in the past to these is, and follow me on this, instant espresso powder. Guys, some of you may know, but some of you may not, that small amounts of espresso powder don't taste like coffee in chocolate fans, but they make chocolate taste more chocolatey. That is something I've used in chocolate cakes. I've used it in brownies before. If you haven't lying around, or if you're just curious, give it a shot. It's great in chocolate cakes. It's great in all kinds of chocolate things that you'll bake because it won't make it taste like coffee. I promise. I'm not a big fan of coffee in a lot of things. I know, blasphemy, but it is something I will use in my baked goods. And now this is a bit more like a batter. There we go. It's still kind of loose. That is going to tighten up and we add it to our dry ingredients. Just right here. And this is where I'm going to switch off the spoon for a bit. I'm going with my spatula. first, I'll show you what the texture looks to be like. 'Cause I like showing you guys the process of these things. So you can know what to look for. That kind of site-based stuff is gonna be helpful for our first time or less experienced chefs. So this is all this is. It's still pretty, it's thick, but not like super fudgy. It's gonna get a lot thicker once we get on. So all that's going in this people. Beautiful. Again, you could do mixer with this. I don't really want to beat this too much. I just want to mix this until it just comes together. And if it's starting to trouble, I do have a more solid wooden spoon I can put in here. Because this brownie batter will fight you on occasion. It's fought me more than once. But gotta persevere. It's gonna seem like you don't have enough liquid. It's like, oh, there's so much cocoa powder in here. It's never gonna come together. What kind of weird brownie recipe did Stalin give me? Can't believe I spent my Friday afternoon watching Cooking by the Books. No. It will come together. At the end, we'll be left with, as I mentioned, very thick brownie batter.
Just have to have faith.
You gotta fit. Promise. So Matt, that first brownie batter was pretty thick, right?
It was, yeah.
Was it this thick?
It was not that
It
thick.
was not that thick. No,
It is not
it was. It is sticking to my spatula. This is what you want. It's got. This seems too thick. This is what you want. It is a dense batter that is almost more of a dough at this point. But this is what you're aiming for. Now comes the fun part. We have a pan here. It's just little 3 by 8 rounds. We have a candy bars. There are 2 schools of thought in this, in my mind. You can either chop these up, or you can layer them. I for one am a fan of the layering. For whatever reasons, it gives you something to weigh down your parchment paper with, and I think it looks nice. But of course, this is purely aesthetic, not to your own opinion. Also, if you layer that, you get a chance to have little sections. Oh, this corner's got all the reasons. Got all the twigs. But again, this is all purely customizable. It's up to your tastes. Do what you want to do. So I'm just layering these in here. I'll go in with my brownie batter. Oh, look at that. Perfect. Okay. So, all right, here's that. We're gonna go in our very thick brownie dough almost. But so popping that in, spreading that evenly like that. So, like I said, it's going to fight you on occasion, but this is going to bring back in that spoon, help smooth everything out, get it all the nooks and crannies of this bowl if you want everything here. Unless you're doing it by yourself and you get to like the bowl, that's a different story. But Matt's here, so I can't do that. So I'm gonna get as much as I can. Also, obligatory donor rides if you're at risk of foodborne illness. Immunocompromised people and pregnant folks don't want to do that. I'm neither of those things, so I will occasionally, that's not.
Yeah, I have been known to indulge in licking the spoon and or the bowl.
Oh, it's happened to all of us, but it's not always the same thing for all of us. So be careful on that. But we are mostly done here. These are our brownies. We'll come back up and show you what we're working with. As I said before, this is a thick batter, but it's very nice. It's dark chocolate. Now we'll put this in our. You can go for half an hour. If you're burning too high, nothing catches on fire. Safety first, folks. That's not great. What am I doing? Trying to fit things in. Took everything out too much. I was cleaning. Okay. So right in there. Matt, would you set me a 30-minute timer?
I will.
Beautiful. And then we'll check that back in 30 minutes. Then the brownie's done. That took, what, 10 minutes? If that, 15?
Yeah, I would say, 12 tops.
There we go. Okay, split the difference, 12 minutes. That is, those will cook for another half hour. We'll start checking them around then. We should be done. Now we'll move on to our second batch of recipes, folks. That's right, we're doing multiple recipes. We're getting back into cooking by the book's form. We're hitting you with all the good recipes. So, next recipe, as some of you may know, it's not hinted at before, we're making Rice Krispie treats. Matt, do you like Rice Krispie treats?
I love Rice Krispie treats
I do too.
for so many reasons.
So many reasons, and we're gonna elucidate some of those reasons pretty soon. Because if you don't like Rice Krispie treats, I have to ask why. There's so many reasons to love them. There's a perfect ratio of effort to payoff. They're extremely simple to whip up and extremely delicious. You don't need a lot of Rice Krispie treats. It's usually under 5 ingredients. I think both of our recipes are maybe 5, maybe 6 ingredients. It's one of those optional. And as Matt sort of, I think you can make all kinds of Rice Krispie treats. You can make them for any occasion. You can make them for any kind of event. I've seen fancy Rice Krispie treats for like bridal showers or baby showers. I've seen very elegant sort of not avant-garde, very couture, like organic Rice Krispie treats, and all kinds of things. Or you can just make ones that you make in your apartment because it's like 2 a.m. and it's sweet. That's what you got. That's what you got in the pantry. Like Rice Krispie treat is a dessert for all occasions. So we're going to make 2 variations of those Rice Krispie treats. We're going to make one a chocolate Rice Krispie treat with marshmallow spider webs. This one is aimed directly at our Halloween folks, and the second one is going to be taking advantage of a Halloween season thing. Is going to make some Rice Krispie treats. Got tons of that there, but I make the Rice Krispie treats with Halloween peeps. Big peeps, man.
I am not a big peep fan, but I still eat them.
I think you're not alone in that. There are a lot of folks who eat peeps more out of tradition than anything else. There's nothing wrong with that. There's a nostalgia to a peep.
Yeah.
I think there's always something there. But I think you might consider if you have an abundance in the future, like one good way of treats.
That will be a good way to dispose of those peeps.
But as I mentioned, these are our ingredients. And again, this is for a full 9x13 pan. We're going for about half of this. So you're gonna want 9 cups of rice cereal, either normal or cocoa. You're gonna want about 3/4 of a cup, stick and a half of butter. You're gonna want, depending, either 30 to 35 peeps, or about 2 10-ounce bags of marshmallows. For the chocolate, you also want a tablespoon of cocoa powder. And for both, you'll want a pinch of salt and optionally a cup of mini marshmallows. Now, that optional cup is for putting into a pan. After you get your big melty mass, I personally enjoy having like some whole marshmallows in there for a textural difference. So you get like the nice crispy sweet, and you get like a pop of marshmallow in there too. That's what breaks stuff. Otherwise, Rice Krispies can be a bit kind of texturally homogeneous. And so we like to avoid that when at all possible. Homogeneity. Can't say words today, excuse me. Like that homogeneous kind of experience. So this is the quick tutorial to Rice Krispie treats. This is our recipe. You'll melt your butter either in the microwave or on the stove, like we're gonna do. You will add your flavors. You will add your marshmallows and melt them together. You'll add your cereal. You'll press it into a prepared pan, ideally lined with greased paper. You let it cool for 30 minutes to an hour. Cut, enjoy. Literally it. That's the whole recipe. I told you to be simple, folks. I won't like it. So we're going to get started. We got 2 to make. Gotta knock everything out. Okay, so I have my pot here. That's been heating up. Grab our butter. Well, we want about 6 tablespoons of butter for half. So, beautiful. I'm just going in. Matt, which one should we start with?
Let's do, just because the Cocoa Krispies are closest to the pot, let's do the Cocoa Krispies.
All right. Got my butter in. We're gonna heat a bit. A little bit high. Grab my big spoon. There you go.
So Stellan, have you ever thought about using, or have you ever, in your cooking adventure, used other breakfast cereals to make treats? I don't know if I'm adventurous enough to try something like, I don't know, Fruit Loop treats.
I've seen a lot of things. I've done Fruity Pebbles once.
Okay.
And that worked pretty well.
Okay.
And with our cocoa powder, adding this. Now, the reason we're adding this is because we want to bloom that cocoa powder into the butter, which is going to intensify that chocolatey flavor. I'm smelling that cocoa now. We're going with marshmallows. This is all moving pretty quick. By design. Well, now we mix. Our goal is to get this melty and delicious with this residual heat. It's going to be sticky and amazing, trust me. Oh yeah. Beautiful. All right, so things are melting very nicely. It's becoming kind of a light brown color as the marshmallows come together. Like I said, this is fast, so we don't want to take too long. I'm gonna go with my Rice Krispies now. Mixing. Key to this is speed. You want to do this before everything becomes a big lump, but it definitely will. We get everything coated, make sure that everything is nice and well coated, and then out a little bit. So you go in with a pan, get that out of there. Pressing very lightly. The best way to do this is with a lightly oiled piece of a towel or a little plastic glove would also work. But we're just going to use our regular spoons. We're moving quick enough. That should be all right. And you grab my spoon real quick. This briefly. Cross contamination, folks. Almost did it. I did it. So those are our Cocoa Rice Krispies. Pretty much done. The last of it's out of here.
I have to say, I always forget how easy these are until I start making them, and then I make them like, why don't I make these all the time?
Well, it's a lot of power now. All right, so what I'm going to do now is very briefly grab this and give this a quick rinse. We'll grab that, folks. Don't worry. You just don't want any of this stuff with it in our other Rice Krispie treats. Matt, while I'm doing this, could you tell the folks about the Rice Krispie treats you make for your family?
Absolutely. Usually, I like the classic Rice Krispie treats, but my wife has a large number of food allergies. Fortunately, Rice Krispies are a safe food. And we found a vegan marshmallow brand that we quite like. So we were actually very excited to discover that we could still make and enjoy Rice Krispie treats that would not make her ill. The best part about this brand of marshmallows is they have started putting out a lot of seasonal flavors. So this time of year they have a pumpkin spice marshmallow. Around late November, they start putting out a peppermint flavored marshmallow. Ooh. Those are both very good.
Those sound nice.
There's probably one or two other flavors that I'm missing, but I can't wait to make some peppermint Rice Krispie treats this December.
Yeah, those sound lovely. So as I mentioned, so go ahead and give that a rinse out. We don't want any of our non-chocolate Rice Krispies to end up chocolate. Ruin our whole line. So now that that's done, I want to show you guys the secret. So I advertised these as spiderweb Rice Krispie treats. I was in the program description. But I hear you asking me, so where's the spiderweb? You just made chocolate Rice Krispie treats. Don't come sure, my friend. What I've done is something far more devious. I've given you a perfect palette on which make your own spiderwebs. Matt, would you do me a favor?
Absolutely.
Would you go microwave these before you sign?
I'd be happy to.
I'll sure the folks at home we have so far. We'll mess doing that. So very delicious, uneven, and you can already see some of the strands of this marshmallow, which will key you into what my plan is. I'm going to heat up some more of those marshmallows, and we'll do a little bit of decorating. Just fine. As we do this, we'll let our pot come back up to heat. So we can do our second batch. See, folks, I want this to be fast and furious. I try to keep things very brisk for you. Long, intense recipes. Don't really spend a lot of focus on lifestyle, but I try to keep things relatable and pretty brief here in my books. Oh, I hear Matt, he's just finishing microwaving those. All right, let me grab a glove really quick. Beautiful, oh, lovely. That's exactly what I want. You'll put that on film for a minute. Like a glove. So, Matt, what happened to those marshmallows in the microwave?
They began to overflow
They did.
as they melted, and it was a beautiful sight.
Isn't it always? So now we have that. I'm gonna grease this glove slightly so it sticks to everything. Then grab some of this and spread it between my fingers. Oh yeah. Lay it all around. That was just a bit of vegetable oil on my hand. I'd recommend this with lots because marshmallow is hot and you don't want to get sugar burns. And it's not fun. So I recommend some gloves. You can do the with 2 forks. I just like that manual dexterity of having my glove hands. So as I'm doing, spreading this around, getting long streaks, marshmallow, giving it that spider-webbed appearance. That's perfect for a spooky gathering this month. Now, is this necessary? Of course not. These are delicious recipes otherwise, but this is just a way to make it slightly more festive. That was what we did. A cup of marshmallows, Matt, that?
Yeah.
A cup. So I didn't measure them too good. If you're doing a bigger batch, it'll determine how much air you need to spider management. So play it by ear. You can always add, you can't take away.
Especially when it comes to melted marshmallows.
Especially when it comes to melted marshmallows. In fact, I remember your blog. So, again, just using as much of this as I dare as these restaurants quickly treats cool. This would be a great thing to do with a kid, even though it's incredibly messy.
That's why it's such a great thing to do with a kid.
True, it's true. All right, I'm gonna call that there. And let me show you folks at home what I've done. Why? It's a fun festive recipe. So I took our basic chocolate, and I added some delicious contrasting spider webs of marshmallow. These will be delicious. These will be eye-catching. These will firm up just like the rest of it, and they should cut pretty easily. And that's our first recipe. It's done. You think these will cool for about 30 minutes, and they'll be gold. So let's move on to our second batch. These peak Rice Krispie treats. This is something I've encountered in the wild maybe once before, but it's something I think is, as Matt said, a good way to use peeps if you got them. These don't have to be Halloween peeps. These can be the classic Easter peep. These can be the Christmas peeps. They have these flavored peeps that I find fascinating on like a philosophical level, because it just shows how we've come to advance as a society, that even our peeps have changed with us. But we're doing with that same amount of butter. pop it into our pot, lower that heat down a bit, because we always want to make sure we're not burning anything. Burning butter is, burning anything in the recipe is very bad. So you want to make sure you've got good heat control. And then that's what you want to see. You want it to sizzle, you want it to start to foam, you don't want it to burn or blacken. If it's burning or blackening, stop what you're doing, lower that heat. The heat will lower a bit naturally by adding cooler things in there, but you really want to make sure that you've got a handle on how hot your pan is. I realize my utensil is covered in chocolate. Oh no, that's all right. What I'm gonna do is, Matt, would you please run some hot water over this? Sure. Thank you very much. In the meantime, we should be good because my heat control is fine. Our butter's not melting too fast. We've got some time before we need to add in everything. I'll just give it a nice swirl. We should be golden. One last doing that, the things we're using are these plastic beaks. Nothing too fancy. These aren't they do have pumpkin spice beaks. We didn't use those, just been something we bought, but these plastic orange beaks. Happy festive. Good. So our butter is melting. We'd love to see it. And pop the thing just a tad. And what I'm going to do with these is I'm not going to bother cutting these. I'm just going to rip them in half. If you want to rip them into smaller pieces, it's not necessary. Matt, how was cleaning that spoon?
It was very easy because the water is very, very hot.
There you go. I was gonna make note of that. You want to, if you're not gonna clean these immediately, use hot water to dissolve that sugar. Otherwise, you're gonna have a bad time. Thank you again, Matt.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, our butter's getting melty. Beautiful. It's all liquid now. And I'm gonna go in with my beets. Now I heat it lower than last time. That's all right. It might just take a little bit longer for those beets to kind of sublimate, get all nice and gooey and delicious. That's all right. We're still looking at some 10 minutes. Man, how's our brownie time doing?
We have just under 13 minutes remaining.
Beautiful. All right. Go ahead and go with this. These are going to melt a bit slower. In fact, it's probably better that these melt a bit slower. Largely because there is that element of sugar on the beets. And if you're too hot, that can very easily burn. But these are ideal for all sorts of also holiday occasions, Halloween parties, horror movie nights in the October, any kind of fall get together. You're probably going to be making these on, I mean, it's November probably. Pumpkins are not an October delicacy. But beware, these are still marshmallows. Marshmallows are very stable. That this guy keeps getting all the milk. Now you brought up the topic of other cereals you can use with us. And I mentioned I used Fruit Double before. Doing pretty good at that. I don't know if I could use fruit or not. You really could, but I feel like you need maybe to break them up a bit.
Yeah.
You want something that'll mesh more texture wise.
Yeah.
Maybe the smaller pieces that can help contribute to that structure.
I was thinking maybe you could use Cap and Crunch, but that's something else you would probably want to, at the very least, cut in half or break into smaller pieces.
Yeah. We're actually using these are frosted Krispies. They're slightly sweet. I didn't realize this when I bought them, but they'll work. They'll be slightly sweeter. Oh no, I don't know. It'll be the end of the world. Our Rice Krispies are slightly sweeter than maybe we had intended, but the only things are starting to break down in a lovely way. But again, the heat was a bit lower, so it's happening a bit slower. They're turning a lovely orange, which is precisely what I was looking for. Although one thing, if you're very worried about appearance and you don't want any kind of specks, you might want to remove the faces of these pumpkins because they are chocolate and they might end up with a couple black spots. I am not too worried. I think that will be just fine as they are. But for our very appearance-minded folks, that's something to take into consideration. It's a bit easier with the classic bird peeps because it's just two eyes. This you got a whole smile to contend with. But you can do that for you. So just mix them together. Get these all nice and melted. What I'm gonna do this time is I am gonna go in with our optional extra marshmallows afterwards. I didn't do them in our chocolate because we had our spiderweb on top I knew. For these, I think I'm gonna want that extra texture. Again, melting it slower, but still good. You want to keep mixing these as you go. Make sure everything is nice and melted together. We're going to give you Rice Krispie treats their structure. And if it wasn't melted correctly or wasn't melted enough, your treats might kind of fall apart. And that's always sad.
How do you think going back to other cereals, how do you think a cereal that has marshmallows in it would work? I don't know, those marshmallows are such a different consistency than
They are.
the ones that people typically use for Rice Krispie treats. Now that it is Halloween spooky season, Count Chocula and Frankenberry are back in stores for a limited time. It might be worth an experiment.
I think it might be. I think if you want to try it out, what I might recommend is you do what I'm doing with my extra marshmallows here. Maybe go in with your cereal and then add in all the marshmallows, so they wouldn't melt as much. You still get that textural sort of difference. But our marshmallows here have melted together. It's not really. There are a little bit of brown spots. I won't tell if you won't. It'll be fine. So I'm gonna go in with cereal. Make sure our pan's ready. Again, it moves fast. Make sure everything is all good. So we go with our cereal now. This is pretty homogeneous. It's also a lovely orange color, which is exactly what I wanted. So cereal in, mixing around, heat up. We're going with more extra marshmallows. Maybe you cup. Eyeball that. Again, more to personal preference, but I think, in fact, I might want a bit more. I think I do want some more. Maybe a cup and a half. Okay, that's good. These are melty and orange and delicious looking. So, and enough. Let's get these into our prepared baking vessel. Oh. Do not forget, you can customize these in 100 ways. I didn't add the vanilla extract mostly because I found that it's good. I also just forgot to add it at that stage, but it's okay. It's not going to be make or break. It'll still be delicious. If you, when you do want to add it, you want to add it during that buttermilk stage before the marshmallows go in. So it gets some time to get to know that butter that can spread and diffuse out through that fat. But I'm just going in. Making sure I get as much as I can off of here. Because Lord, it's so good. Alrighty. The inevitable part of making Rice Krispie treats is everything is sticky all the time. But at the end, it's delicious. So that's everything out of the pan that I care to scrape for. You just want to spread everything out as best you can. Press it very slightly. It doesn't need to be super tight. You just want to get it as much as you're able. Now, our second batch. Look at that beautiful orange color. The pockets of the white from the extra marshmallows. Tell me that's not.
That looks wonderful.
Doesn't it? What's our brownies now, right, Mike?
We have 5 minutes and 50 seconds.
Beautiful. So now we can take some time to clean up a bit. Again, I will go over some tips on cleaning up from this, because one thing you will learn from making this is that marshmallows don't clean well unless you act fast or act hot. So because sugar is very sticky, hot. And I've had sugar burns, not from marshmallows, but from caramel mostly. But the same concept applies that if you're cooking with a lot of heavy sugar and like that kind of products, we're not cooking hot, they're in hot water. This pan right here, and I would just fill this with hot water, give it a scrub, it'll all come off pretty easily. Same with our other marshmallow thing here, again, just hot water. The rest of this is pretty light on dishes. And this is a pretty one pot kind of dessert. I think it's gonna be pretty nice. The brownies are brownies, again, that was what, 2 bowls?
Yeah.
The bowl for our dry, the bowl for our wet?
Yeah.
That's pretty good. One other tip I will give is, if you happen to have these little things with a lid, increase the lid. You invert it. Try and get slightly more even top. You don't need to do this. It's not required. Some people say actually it inhibits texture. I don't know that's true, but give it a shot. It won't ruin my promise. As we wait for our brownie the last few moments, as we're getting cleaned up, we'll go ahead and go with our outro stuff. And then we'll end with the big reveal of our brownies. So as you see, we have our orange beef brownies, we have our chocolate spiderweb brownies, our orange beef red cookies, excuse me, we have brownies in the brain. So excited for them. You can tell. We got our chocolate spiderweb rice cookie treats, also beautiful. And of course, candy bar brownies. I'll share our screen briefly. I'll pop these recipes up again just in case. I know folks might want to see these again just for their own records. Let's go back a bit. So come on, there we go. So this is the ingredient list for our Rice Krispie treats again. Again, it's a pretty simple recipe. It's half a dozen ingredients, one of which is salt, one of which is vanilla, and the other which is butter. So you guys got this. I have faith in you. The brownies are a bit more complex, so I really want to hit that recipe page again, just to make sure folks got that. There we go. So this is our basic brownies. Again, I will highly recommend going for that the melted chocolate and butter approach. It does make a difference. Blooming your chocolate in your fat, in this case butter, does really impact flavor. If you do want to add the espresso powder, that's when I would add that too, because that's something with the heat and the fat really brings out a lot of those subtle chocolate flavors that you don't get with just a cocoa powder. Also, you can play around with the cocoa powder. I've seen a lot of revisions for the very dark, like Dutch process, like cocoa powder. The cocoa powder makes Oreos, and it's nothing that I love because it's hard to find around here, but it comes heavily recommended by a lot of them. Let's go to our last slide. Get it wrapped up and get the brownies out of the oven. So, again, I want to thank you all for coming with us. This has been Cooking by the Books. As always, I am Stella Harris, joined by Holy Matt Surgeon Matt and all the friends that help us are individual parts of this program. It would not happen without them. So thank you again for helping us, Matt.
Absolutely happy to be here.
We are happy to have you. So this recording should be up sometime in the next week or so. Generally keep an eye out on the DVR YouTube channel for that. We try to have these once a month. The next month will be a savory episode. We're going to focus on making some seasonal pasta at home. I know, pasta from scratch. I promise it's not as scary as it sounds. You can do it. There's only like 1 week, there's only 1, maybe 2 weird ingredients. And beyond that, it's pretty achievable. But we do hope that you'll come back and join us. But in the meantime, I feel like we got to get some brownies out of there. Yeah, we have just about 1 minute remaining. Beautiful. It's like we timed it. I will grab something to get those brownies out of the oven. Beautiful. Okay. Bacon away.
Smell delicious.
Thank you. You might have seen me go try and open it. I want to open it so bad. It smells so nice.
This room has smelled amazing for the last 15 minutes or so.
All right, Matt.
We're at 25 seconds.
Oh, it's the worst part. It's all right, it's all right. We've come this far, we've made a delicious brownies. These will be great in like half an hour. It'll be great, it'll be fun. As much as I want, right now, the patience is important. The patience will pay off because that's what's gonna make these brownies so delicious.
That's right. We are down to time.
Hey, all right. So this is when you're gonna start checking these. Our purposes, oh, these are, good lord. Good lord. All right, folks. I don't like to do my. I'm not a bragging type. But I want to show you something. Something I wasn't sure it was gonna do, but I thought I might. Do you remember what candy bars we used?
Let's see. Snickers, Three Musketeers, and Twix.
Yes, that's right. If you look closely, down in that bottom corner there's some nougat that's blown out of a Three Musketeers. There's some caramel peeking around the sides. Tell me that's not great. Tell me that's not.
That you really just need a fourth to just
Just
dig into that.
Yeah, oh, if only. But that's the things. And you want to cool those about half an hour and 2 hours, depending, and they'll be amazing. But that's our 3 recipes for October. I'm very happy that you folks are joining us today. And I hope that you have a wonderful October and a wonderful Halloween. Matt, any last words for our lovely viewers?
I can't wait to eat all this stuff.
I can't either. All right, folks, have a wonderful night. Thank you for joining us.